My name is Liz Svoboda. I am the Instruction Outreach Librarian here at the Thompson Library. I'll be leading this session. This meeting is being recorded, so if you have any questions, please feel free to pop those into the chat, and I'll answer them kind of as they come in, and we definitely have time at the end of this session for a longer Q&A if necessary. Okay, so today's topic is we are going to be talking about how to use your Google Drive, which is attached to all of our university products here because we are a Google campus. So starting off with just kind of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to talk about basically what it is, how to get to it, what the different kind of organization structure within Drive is. There's a couple of different ways that documents can be shared with you and how you can access them. And then we're going to talk about, some basic organization strategies as well as how to kind of search within Drive. And then also kind of talking about some ways to some of the tools that are built into Drive to make it easier to find things kind of off the bat. So to start off with, and I will warn you, I will be going kind of in and out of this slideshow. So you would if we're going to be showing you some of like how to actually navigate through the Drive systems as well. All right. So basically, Google Drive is cloud storage. It's tied to a university Google account. Every Gmail account has a Google Drive attached to it. So if you do have a personal Gmail account, excuse me, you do have a personal Drive account that is separate from your university Google account. Okay. It allows you to access files and documents anywhere that you have an online internet connection and on different devices. So again, there are apps for your smartphone and tablets, as well as, going through your browser window. And the really big thing with Google Drive and even things like Microsoft 360 is with this cloud storage, it makes it very easy to share documents for collaboration, either within, group work that you're doing at the university or like departments and that kind of thing. Projects make it a lot easier for this collaboration through the cloud. Okay. So there's a couple of different ways that you can get into your Google Drive. You can log into university Gmail account and navigate up through some of the tools there. If you want to go directly to drive.google.com and just log in with your university credentials, you can do that too. And if you are logging into your Chrome browser, you can actually use the apps menu there. So let's switch over here and show you what you mean. So I'm actually already logged into my Drive, okay? But if I do go, and this is really similar to what you would see in your Gmail account, in the upper kind of right corner next to where your profile and your kind of affiliation is, there is a little 9-dot Google Apps option here. And this is where you are able to go in and see, I can get to Gmail, I can get to Drive, I can get to Calendar. This is attached to your account here. So you can move things around. So say I actually wanted my Gmail to be earlier or my Drive or my Calendar. And this is the same across all of the different kind of Google tools. So if it's email, if it's your calendar, if it's Drive, this little 9-dot Google Apps is always there. Okay. If you are logged into your Chrome browser like I am right now, those 9 dots will show up next to your profile image on the new tab. So say it definitely says, I want to go to Gmail first. But again, you could go into Drive again from this option here. Okay, so that's really basically how you get to Google Drive. Pretty simple and self-explanatory, pretty simple. Okay. Now, within Drive, there are kind of multiple levels and multiple drives that you can get into. Okay, so my Drive in Google is your individual storage space that you have complete control over outside of like ITS, like the university's ITS and Google itself. Okay. Not that ITS goes through your personal information, but again, they have some administrator access to basically everybody's account. Okay. There's approximately 250 gigabytes of storage while you are a student or currently enrolled at the university. Okay, that 250 goes away when you're an alumni. I think it takes you back down to the kind of standard 15 gigabyte limit, which I believe is what comes with a personal Gmail account. I think everybody's like, if you don't have it through the university, I think it's about 15 gigabytes of data that you have access, or that you have, a storage space that you have access to, excuse me. But again, while you are a student or a faculty or a staff member, currently enrolled, currently employed, you have 250 gigabytes in your personal account, okay? Now, shared drives, these are storage spaces that aren't attached to a person's account. You have to request these to be made by ITS. And there is that 15 gigabyte limit of storage spaces there. So a lot of our departments on campus will have a shared drive that, they put kind of files that don't necessarily need to belong to one person there. Many of them will have multiple drives. The library, for example, I think we've got about 10 kind of aimed at different areas of the library. And I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit here. So again, and like you can, with shared drives, we'll go into that a little bit more, but you can kind of control who has access to them a little bit more freely than you do with your drive. Like you can't just give someone else complete access to your drive. With the shared drives, multiple people will have permissions and can manage the drive in a way. And then the final way to kind of share things and to store things is to actually have files or folders that are owned by another individual, and then they've given some of those kind of access permissions to you. And you can do this with others as well. So if you're working on a document and you need someone to review it, your draft, you can share it with them and give them different levels of permission, which again, will go forward, but you would still retain the ownership and it would live in your drive or possibly even a shared drive if that individual isn't part of the ownership of the shared drive, okay? So there's 3 different kind of levels. My drive, completely mine. I have complete control over it outside of, ITS and Google. Shared drive, multiple people have control over the permissions and can add and edit things within that drive depending on what their level is. And then finally, shared with me this is a document that is shared, that is like you were given permissions by another individual to access this document, okay? In Google Drive. Right now, I have this set up so that when I log into Drive, this is my homepage. It just goes directly to my Drive and it shows all of the different folders and then any loose files that I have kind of lived it down here. So I do have some things that are kind of hanging out on my own. Otherwise, I do have these folders. Now you can have folders within folders if you wanted to. So for example, when I was going down to, we'll go to collection development, for example. I do have some different folders. We're talking about different years. I will also have some kind of loose files within this collection development folder, okay? And I can get into and go through all of these if I want, or I can go in and edit things as I want. Now, the home screen doesn't actually have to look like this. You do actually technically have a home screen with Google Drive, and it takes you to things that you are what it calls suggested folders, suggested files. Typically, these are things that you have recently been working on or that you go back to a lot. So for example, been working on these webinars for a little bit and kind of updating them. So you'll see that the webinars here kind of at the top, you'll see that this Google Drive presentation is. You'll see that I've been working on some conference proposals and some other things that are kind of coming back up here. There's also things that are shared with me. So some of these are folders and files that are in my drive. Some of them are in shared files or in shared drives. So for example, like webinars and the project outcome, these are both in a shared drive. Otherwise, you'll see that some of these things are in shared with me. So these are things that have been shared with me. Otherwise, there are things that are going to be in my full drive, and you can kind of see when it was opened, where it kind of lives within these specific drives as well on this home folder. Now, I don't really like the home like this because I often won't necessarily go back into it this way. So I've got it set up in my settings here that the drive is the first thing I see, but I could change this if I really wanted to. Up in the upper right corner of Google Drive, I can go up to the little gear icon and then go to settings. It'll show you how much access you have. It'll also say where my start page is. So I can say I would like to see home as my start page instead of Drive. And then every time that and it also has like, if you want dark mode, light mode, kind of how what the density is, so how many things and kind of how big the font is within Google Drive, how you open PDFs, some other kind of things that you might want to look at here. But I've switched it over to home. So if I go back and then reload Drive here, it should take me, actually, hold on a second, let me do this again. Let me open up Drive in a new one. So next time I open up Drive and it says welcome to Drive, it'll have me at home rather than kind of landing in my Drive. Okay. So if you want to see what you've been most working on recently, this is the way to go. Okay. Now, below activity and workspaces, and we'll talk about these in a little bit here. My Drive is where, again, this is your Drive that you have complete control over. You'll see that I have shared some things out. I've got this cute little icon with a person within that folder, kind of indicates that I've shared this with someone, but a lot of what I have isn't shared with anybody, right? Like there's a lot of folders that are just completely mine, no sharing. I don't need to kind of, and it's stuff that I'm personally working on. Okay. Shared drives is these are all of the different ITS controlled and created drives that are either attached to a committee that I'm working on or are part of like the library's kind of structure here. So you'll see that we have a bunch of different ones down below. We'll just pick on instruction. And here you can see that you have 7 members that are in this. So there are 7 people who have access to this in some way, shape, or form. And the more actions I can go through here and I can manage members and email members, change some themes, rename it, that kind of thing. As long as I am like a content manager or a manager of the drive, okay, which I am. There are other folders that, for example, look down here with the Flint, Flint Library photos, I can view members and email them, but I can't really do as much as I could with the instruction because I don't have I am not a manager on this photos drive. Again, kind of thinking about who owns it and who has control over it is going to be important when you're setting these up. So if I go into library instruction here, it'll still be same kind of structure, same kind of folder assignment that you see. So you can add folders, you can have loose kind of items within this folder and drive. You'll see that I've got some things that are starred. So this is one way of organization and kind of finding things, and we'll go into that a little bit. But if I did want to, share this particular online instruction, I could folder with someone outside of this group. I could do that. I can also edit and delete and share edit, download these things as well. But let me go up to the very top. So you can see that I am a manager of this group. So I have this option to manage members. And in here, I could say, here's the manager. A couple of my colleagues are also managers. So Emily Newberry is a manager. Callum Carr is a content manager. And you can actually, change this kind of options here. So and add people as well. So Callum has kind of the second tier right here. So they can add and edit and move, delete content within the drive, right? But they can't, mess around with who has access to it or the settings of the drive. And there's a few other options here, and the viewer is the least option. They can just see what's in the drive. They can navigate around, but they can't actually do anything. Commenters is kind of one level up. That allows you to add comments to a document or to folders within the drive. But again, it doesn't let you edit anything that's in those documents or add any files. Contributor, one step below that content manager, you can add and edit files. You can't delete anything though. You can't delete files out. So when you're actually sharing, not only in the shared drives, but in actually sharing documents out, most of these levels are still kind of there. So when you're sharing things out, you have some ability to kind of work with this. And since, I'm a manager of this, I can actually go down here and say, I actually need to either add someone. So for example, I could add our office manager, which we should probably do anyway, as a content manager. And, I can send her a message. If I can spell correctly, that would be great. And then I can send this to her, okay? And so we can add people that way. If I wanted to share just a regular folder out like this, I can go over to share here. And again, it'll show you everybody who has access to this right now. I could actually go through here and add in additional people. It'll kind of pull in from contacts of who I've contacted recently to do this. And when I say I want to share it with this person, I can again choose what I want to do. And this is going to be either content manager, maybe I just want Sarah to comment on things that are in this drive or view things that's there. You can also actually just grab a link to this and that would send it out to her. And actually, let me cancel this. If I did want to kind of grant a larger group of people and not add them in individually to this file or this folder, for example, I can actually say that I only want people with this link that I would copy to have it. I could level up to anybody at the University of Michigan could have this. So you have to kind of authenticate with your credentials in order to view this once I send you the link. Okay. And you can add them as a viewer. You can also add them as commenters. You can up their roles a little bit here. So be very careful when you're doing this. The last one down here is anyone with this link. And anybody on this link can view. You can actually put them up to edit, contribute, and be a content manager as well. Personally, if I'm going to be sharing it out with just anybody, kind of leaving it at either the viewer or the commenter is probably where I would kind of leave it, unless you're working with someone who doesn't have a Google account, right? And then maybe you want to make sure that they are able to add or contribute files or comments to, or edits to a document. So that might be something you want to do. But there are some different levels, and you can control the sharing of these shared drives as well as documents within your own options there. Okay. So on the left side of the screen, you've got My Drive and Shared Drive. You also have computers. So I actually have this installed on, you can actually sync up with documents that are on the computer that you're on all the time. So this is my work computer. So I do have this set up. I actually also have on like a Windows File Explorer, Gmail is actually kind of built into it. And let me actually change the screen here really quickly so you can see. So on my File Explorer here, I'm in my quick access on Windows, but if I go down here, you can actually see, oh, there's My Drive. This is installed on most of the university computers. And so once you log in and kind of connect your drive, you can actually see this. So I could hop over to my shared drive, and here are all those different shared drives that I have access to. And so I can go through and say, oh, I want you to go into Africana and open up these Google Docs right on my computer rather than going through the browser. Okay. So there are a few different ways to get to this. And like My Drive is completely here, so I can go through and use it and even like kind of pin different folders or things that I get into quite frequently to my quick access here. Now, the last option that I talked about is the shared with me. So these are documents that, again, are owned by other people, and they've gone through to say, hey, here is a document that I need you to look at and to kind of go over. So for example, here's some slides that HR has shared with me, for example, so I could go in and view them. If I've got things from, let me look at this. I was working with my colleague on some directions for a nursing assignment. So we're going through here and we're able to kind of share this, even though this doesn't actually like live within my drive. This was shared with me by another person. Okay. Now, as I said, you can share individual items with somebody as well. So if I go into my drive here and I just want to share, we'll grab, display, this will be fine. Okay. So if I wanted to share this PDF of something with someone, I wanted to email it to them, I can go over to the far, excuse me, the far three dots over here and hit more actions, and then it'll see I can open it with a few things. I could download it since it is a PDF, or if I'm working with like a Google with a Microsoft Word doc or an Excel sheet, I might want to download it. Rename, I can make a copy of it. I can also kind of share it here. And I can either copy the link directly and like send that out to someone, or if I click on share itself, it'll ask me, who do I want to share this with? So if I was going to share this with my colleague Emily, for example, I put their name in or their email, I can add them as either an editor, meaning that they are able to go in and edit this particular file or make changes to it or rename it in the case of a PDF. They could comment on it or they could just view it, okay? For collaboration sakes, most likely you're probably going to be using a commenter or an editor option here. But you can do that. And then once you send it with a little message, it'll say, hey, take a look at this. They'll, Emily would get an email for this. Done. Okay, so that's with anything in like my personal folder here. And again, depending on, a lot of these files are older and they're kind of made outside of Google. So a lot of these are Microsoft Word documents or PDFs and things in here. If it is just a Google Drive, let me see here what it looks like. Do I have? Yeah. So for example, this Google Doc in here, this is actually a shared document that we were looking at that talks about a project that I was working on with some colleagues down in Ann Arbor. So with this one, again, I could go through and share it out, and it is a little bit more streamlined because it's already shared with multiple people, and you'll see that I was talking with them and you can see what their access is to it as we're going through here. Okay. And typically, if it is shared, it will have a little icon of multiple kind of figures next to it. It will also show you if you have any comments or edits or anything, or typically comments that you need to kind of follow up on and reply to within a particular document as well. Any questions so far? I don't think I've seen any. We got one in chat. So Grace, if you are not actually in a shared drive, you may not actually see one. So shared drives are typically, again, created by a department or a club or something. And then you're invited to it, or you would add to, or ITS needs to create it basically. So if you do not see shared drive over there, that is totally okay. It just means you don't have access to it. So you might just have my drive and the shared with me options. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So let's talk about staying organized and actually searching through Google Drive itself. Just some basic organization tips and things that I found are useful. Try to keep all or most of your files within folders in your drive, right? You'll notice that when I was in my drive, I did have some random kind of like Word docs or Google Docs or Excel sheets or something kind of free floating in my drive and not in any organization structure. Do what I say, not what I do, basically. So also just kind of going through, and I will often go through and look at those, like, I haven't looked at this in a while. I don't know where it goes. I probably don't need it. I'm going to delete it. Okay. But kind of maintaining a file folder structure will help you stay more organized. So whether that is by particular classes, you know, even by semesters, I would at least go by a class. So if you're in Comp 210 or like Bio 406 in the same semester, having individual files for those classes is good. And then within those have, you know, possibly different folders for different projects. If you have multiple documents with them in them, or that are related to a project, but kind of maintaining an organization structure that makes sense to you is also going to be the best. And I can give you tips on it, but it's also going to make the most sense for your brain, and that's what you should go with. Okay. I will say that trying to keep files, names, and folder names short but descriptive is a good idea. Okay. So And again, this is kind of based on what is displayed within your Google Drive, right? So if the name is too long, or the information that really kind of identifies it is at the end and then it gets cut off, that's not good, right? So making them really short. So COM 210 versus like public speaking class already kind of sent out. If it's a file, kind of using the name of a committee, the agenda, and the kind of a date to it versus, academic standards committee agenda January 2nd, 2025, right? That first little bit is a little bit more readable than, everything completely spelled out. Use acronyms that and that are commonly known by the people that you're going to be sharing documents with. The university tends to be very acronym heavy. And so again, making sure that everything is kind of understood by everybody in a group or by that you're working with is going to be best. Okay. When that happens, kind of creating naming conventions that are shared. So abbreviations that make sense. Use date formats that sort well. So typically when I do this, I will go by start with a year. So, things that are happening in 2024 will come before things that happen in 2025. So year, then month, then date. Because if you start with the month, for example, and use name everything January, March, February, or January, February, March, April, and you try to sort things as you're in a folder. February is going to run, or April is going to run to the top, right? Because A comes before that J or the J, the F and the M in there. So, if you are going to need to sort things kind of and to find things using that, using those kind of sortable numbers is a good idea. Include versions in your file names if necessary, but number them, okay? So instead of draft final or final version, final version, absolutely final version, like that, no. So, draft 1, edit 1, draft 2. Sometimes if you're sharing it with people, I will throw Liz edit and then like the date that it happened. So this is 25th of January 17, something like that. So it's a very sortable day, a sortable kind of file photo. But again, if you are working with a larger group project, kind of coming up with those naming conventions together and deciding on them is a good idea. Because what makes sense in my head, like I can read out this date because this date nomenclature because I've been using it for a very long time and it makes sense to me, but not everybody thinks, oh, this is 2025, January and 17. They might try to kind of switch that around and think that it's, maybe it's July or something else there. So just kind of think about that when you're putting these together. And actually, a good rule of thumb for larger group projects, things that you're going to be working on for a semester or multiple semesters, whether that's with your peers or whether that's with like your faculty mentor or something else like that, or in a larger department setting, creating what's called a README file, just to kind of lay out those ground rules and have them set up is a good idea. So README files are used a lot in data management projects where you have, multiple experiment cycles going through and you kind of have to understand what's in all these different files. A README file is a good kind of like read this first, understand what's going on in this organizational structure, and it kind of gives kind of best practices to kind of refer back to. So this is one kind of concept there. Now, these are all great, but you already saw that I have a lot of different folders all over the place. I have some files that didn't get into folders and I need to like do that as part of like my resolution to be more organized this year, right? So when that happens, or maybe you just like were shared something and you don't know where it goes or don't remember exactly who sent it to you, you just kind of have a vague idea of what it was about. Google Drive has this amazing search function, and that's what we're going to go into next here. I'm on my drive, but at the very, very top up here, you can already see a place to search for the drive. So this is your basic search box. You can search for a person. So we'll pick on my colleague Matt to see, okay, Matt, I know sent me a lot of documents. What is he? And he sent me something recently. I need to find it. So I can search with him. What comes up is in the search results. And you can see, okay, here's a recent document that Matt has shared with me. And then there's some other things that are down below. You'll see when it was last modified, who owns it. So Matt is definitely the owner on a lot of these things, okay? You'll see that, we've got some longer titles here. And again, this one, the OT therapy books, not yet owned. It's there, but like if you had kept going, it may not necessarily have been as readable as it could be, okay? Now, within the search results, I can actually filter here and I can actually view them. So I've got them in this list format here. In the upper corner, I can change the layout and do like a grid if I wanted to see a little bit of like what it looks like. So again, if I don't remember, oh, the usage stats were actually in a table, like or what the preliminary usage stats were, but I remember that, oh, they were in a table. This might kind of prompt me to look at it. I usually have things set in grid format, but that's just, I recognize like the names of things a little bit more easily than like what the paper looked like, but there is that option there. You can actually filter by type. So I want to see all of the spreadsheets that Matt has shared with me, right? And so I can limit to those spreadsheets, and these are going to be all the Google spreadsheets that Matt has shared with me, right? I could search by, okay, I know I want to see things that Matt has shared with me just within like the last 30 days because he just sent it to me recently, but I don't remember exactly how recently. So, okay, there's only been this one within the last month that Matt has shared, which makes sense because, holidays and all that stuff. Okay. Source, you can say, oh, did he share it with me via Gmail or Meet? And you can even sort by like a location. So I could say anywhere in my drive. I could say it's in my drive someplace. So it's maybe something that I've shared with Matt. I could also limit to things that are, starred, or maybe I'm like, did I put this in trash? I should probably maybe look to see if it's there. Okay. So, and you'll see that it's kind of limited down to Matt Wolverton is the owner in this in the second one here. So I could take this out and remove it. And if I wanted to search for people, so say we'll just do oh, who also sends me a bunch of stuff? We'll just pick, yeah, we'll pick on Emily here. I could again change this to, and when I'm down in here, I could actually limit to her by it's owned by her, or she's the creator, or I've shared it with her. So say for example, that trying to think of a recent project we were working on. We'll just do so Emily and I go out and talk a lot to faculty about things. So I can say, okay, faculty visit, and I want to see things that I've shared with her, right? And if there's any documents that I've shared with her specifically about this. So yes, there are. And these are things that are shared again with Emily. Then some of them over in the owner column here, you'll see that they're actually in a shared drive. So this is in the instruction drive. This is in another committee that we are working on here. You can see when things were last modified, and you can even sort by last modified. So this is, again, most recent things that were kind of coming up, or if I wanted to go back, I can see things all the way back to 2006. Whew, that's a long time ago. Some of these things are even predate me at this point in time. So I can kind of look through this and see with what this is. The other thing that comes back with this is that faculty visit, for example, this is looking not just at the title of the document, but also within the document itself. So it is searching not only within, again, not only the name, but also in here. So if I do a quick find for visit, it may not come back exactly, but it will say, oh, campus tour, a lot of people are coming to visit. So there's a little bit more, Google is pulling back a little bit more than you think it is with these searches. So just kind of remember that as you're going through. Okay. So, and you could actually search results and like make sure that it is in the title only. So if I'm looking at that, like, okay, here's, temporary staff visiting or faculty visiting, it has to kind of be in there. Okay. So there's a bunch of different kind of functionality within this search as well. You can even do an advanced search. So say I was, I know that I'm shared a document with somebody and it was talking about let's pick on ACRL, which is a thing I'm find it has the words ACRL in it. It has, maybe I'm looking at an item name. Maybe I want to see if there's anything in trash that is related to this ACRL option here. So let me put in Yala. Okay. You can limit by date modified. You can try to find anything here. You can see if it was shared to anybody. You can also say, that there are comments or suggestions within a document that you had someone editing. So there's actually a really robust searching engine within this Google Drive. So let me click search. And I don't have anything in Miala and trashed. Great. Let me see if I other have documents. And here's all sorts of other documents that I was talking about with regard to this professional organization that I'm working with, right? And maybe I want to make sure if I was modifying anything in the last 30 days, here's some things that were kind of being worked on. And again, maybe not necessarily by me. It might be by other people too that are kind of working on these documents that I have access to. Okay. Because there's one last thing I want to touch on, because searching is great, keeping a file folder is great, but what about those kind of projects that you're going back to all the time? Maybe you are like, you just kind of want them to get you want more easy access to them than if you are going in and like kind of going through and scrolling or searching through your file structure. Okay. Google Drive also helps with that. So first place to look for things that you've been most recently kind of looking on is in the activity action up here. So again, on the far kind of left side of the screen, right under your home, you'll see this activity option here. Now, these are going to be different types of activities. So you'll see recent comments. So this is a manual that a bunch of my coworkers are working on in the library. You'll see there's some recent comments that have been attached to it. You'll see some things that have recently been shared with me up here. So if you are kind of going back and forth in a and really working on a draft together with some of your peers or colleagues or anything, these will kind of come up here. So this might be some place to look at too. And to kind of show any kind of edits that are going back through. The other place to kind of, again, see things that are recently happening, kind of keeping up to date with that, is if you can go down on the left side under shared with me, there is a recent option. I kind of want them to move this up because it makes more sense for me that it's moved up, but they've got it down here. But recent shows you things that you've opened, and you'll notice here's a couple of the things that I opened in this session, right? Here's a few things that I was working on earlier today with my colleagues and things. You'll see that here's what I was working on yesterday, right? So you can kind of go back and track what you were looking at to say, oh, this is the winter faculty department meetings that I was looking for. This is what I need to see, okay? So there are definitely, Google is tracking your data a little bit here and kind of trying to be helpful and say, here's what you were most recently working on. And again, giving you that kind of date and even timestamp about when you last opened it. Now, that's great for like kind of seeing what's up. But again, what if you need to go back and say, I'm going into this all the time, I just want to get to it really quickly. There's two different tools within Google that really help with that. So the one that I use the most and that I like the most is Starred. So again, down below on the left side, kind of a little bit farther down, is this Starred option. And this basically puts a little star next to all of these different either folders that are either owned by me or maybe they live in a drive. So for example, this book dates folder is in the shared outreach and social media drive in the library. Some of them are going to be shared with even people at other institutions. So this is my colleague Dylan, who works at Western Michigan. They were sharing a project that they were working on, not only with me, but with other people who were at this workshop, right? You can even do particular individual files, right? So if this is, kind of a schedule that most of the librarians are working on. This is kind of other kind of folders and files that we are working on together, and things that I want to kind of come back to pretty frequently. These are here, okay? How you add a star to these options and even take one out is, so say, we'll just pick on this Africana one here. If I either right click on it within Microsoft Word, I can organize it in a couple of different ways. So I can change colors, and if you're one of those people who like needs to color code everything, there's color coding options in here. I can add it to my starred option, and that will make sure that it kind of pulls up and make sure that it's there. I can also, within this organization structure, I can move it. So say I needed to move Africana either into another folder, or I can even put it into another drive. So right now, you'll see that it's in my drive. Maybe I want to move it to another folder here, or like even within here, or if I wanted to move it to another folder entirely, I could do that as well. You know, so there's a bunch of different, and like, you know, maybe I want to move it into one of these things that are here. If you're not seeing anything in the suggestion or in the starred locations, you can actually say, okay, I need to move this in my drive, not to collection development, but maybe I want to move it to we'll put it in I don't remember to put this in. We'll put it in instruction, right? Move it there. Okay. So it's no longer in my drive, it's down in instruction. But it's still starred. Okay. So this starred option, and you'll see it's now here in starred. Okay. So there's a few different places, and if you wanted to remove something from starred, you can again right click it, or any of these options. If you go over to the more actions, little 3 dots here, this also opens up here. And sorry, organize. I'm going to remove from starred. Okay. So that's all there. So I really like this because again, I have a fairly decent file and folder structure naming things, so I can like, no, I know I need to go in here and see this stuff. Now, if you don't necessarily have the best structure, but you still kind of want to pull things together, or if you are going to be working on a project and you need to pull from both a shared drive and your drive, and you've got documents kind of all over the place, Google has this workspaces option, which I'm still kind of playing around with a little bit. But basically what you do in here is you kind of create a workspace, and then there's a list of documents or files or folders that you kind of hear like, okay, so this, when I'm working with both the holiday and the blind date with the book programs through the library, these are the ones that I go through and look at quite frequently, right? Like I've got the requests, I've got the forms, I've got some scripts that I send, or email scripts that I send out to people. To create a workspace, you have one of 8. And you can actually hide old workspaces if you need to make more, just kind of follow the instructions as they come up here. So if I wanted to do this and I say, I need to work on, okay, we'll do an APA, Canvas module. Okay, so this is a new project that this is the thing. This is the thing that I'm going to be working on next, right? So I'm going to be creating a Canvas module, and I need some different options from this. It's going to ask you to start adding files. So for example, if I go in here, and again, it'll ask you if you're going in recently, if you're going in my drive, shared drives, this kind of thing, say, okay, I definitely need in here, and I don't necessarily like how this kind of lays out with the gigantic images instead of like a list, but it's there. You can search in here. So intro to APA. And so you can search. So, okay, I definitely know that I've got this option here that I want to put in here. I can actually like add in some additional folders, some workshop webinar series planning that maybe I wanted to look for, other things that are kind of pulling through here. So I'm going to insert that one. Okay. I can again add additional files, like if maybe I didn't want to do multiples at a time. Maybe I want to go through here and look at citation style things that I was worth looking at. Maybe I don't remember exactly what it is, but I want to grab this one and I want to grab these two, so I can grab multiple ones at the same time and insert those over as well. And what this does is if I say done here, and you'll see that it really tries to keep you focused on a small group of files that you're going to be kind of going in and out of, and even like drives, or should be, I don't think you can actually put folders in. Hold on. Can I add a folder? I don't think I can. Because if I was going to do, yeah, so it's actually like just focused on the files. It's not any folders that you have kind of going, it's just individual files that you're working with. So once I'm done here, you'll see that, oh, okay, here's this one that I can kind of work around and like actually go into a little bit more easily. So if you're someone who like wants to see a group of files together, like right off the bat, this might, and like a current project that you're working on, Workspaces is actually a really good option for this too. Okay. Now within Drive, if you're going to create anything new, all these file folder structures up here in the new, this is where you would create a new folder, where you create a new doc, where you might upload a file. So for example, if I've got something in my documents, or like I downloaded something to my computer and I need to upload it someplace. So for example, we'll go to downloads and say I need to update this project-based inquiry somewhere. I can upload that into my drive and it just kind of lands here, right? If I go in and I can move it around to different areas if I really wanted to, okay? This is also how you would create a new Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides. When you create them, it lands wherever you are. So right now it would just land in Drive, but if I was going to add it into, say, the citation option or the citation style folder and added a new doc here, then it should add in here. Okay, so when you're kind of creating documents within Drive or within, the kind of app sections up in here, just kind of make sure that once you're creating it, you're putting it back into that file structure that you've put in. Okay. So if you guys have any questions for me, I'll be in the chat. I will also say that we do have as those questions are maybe coming in, we do have a guide on the library website that talks about a lot of the different things that I showed you today and just has other help from both ITS and Google. I'm going to pop that into the chat here. This is my contact information if you need to get a hold of me as well. Thank you for watching this recorded webinar. Find upcoming webinars to register for at libcal.umflint.edu.